You're listening to What the FMCG, a podcast series from FieldAssist featuring conversations with eminent industry leaders of great brands in the CPG industry.
I'm very excited to welcome Siladitya Sarangi, the country manager for Deoleo India. Thank you, Siladitya, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And you can call me Sheila.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Sheila. So, for those who are not aware, the Figaro brand of olive oil that I'm sure many of us seen in our homes for decades is actually owned by Deoleo. So, how much do you think your industry has evolved in India? Between when you joined and today.
So I think the journey has been really good. We are in the healthy oil segment. That is a segment that has done well, especially with the pandemic coming in. People really getting to understand the value of healthy things and really getting to understand also the quality of things. So earlier you had people understand olive oil but really not understand what is the quality of olive oil. Now in the last few years, people have started to understand much more about what is the quality of olive oil, why is it better. So in terms of us acquiring consumers, it has become easier because consumers now understand the product.
Yes, I'm sure because the healthy wave or the health trend awareness has really catch up in the last few years a lot. And how you have been able to influence, like what's your story? How do you educate or bring this awareness to the mass consumers? What kind of initiatives or efforts do you do?
So for us, the journey was actually a bit more complex than other olive oil players because we used to be known more as a personal care product, less as a product that was for food. So our journey was actually to make people understand that this is also a food product. You can also use it in your daily cooking, and that is where the biggest journey has been made. So earlier, 20% of our consumers would understand that Figaro was a food product. Now 65% of our consumers understand that Figaro is a food product. So that is the journey that we have actually made. We have kind of moved from your dressing room to your kitchen. So that's the journey that we have made in the minds of the consumer, and it's really interesting.
Wow. One more question which is coming to my mind is about, olive oil, is a superfood, it's a commands premium. But in India, we have so many diverse options when it comes to edible oils, which could be affordability wise or popularity wise or availability wise, whatever, and the perception wise also. So how do you handle that kind of a competition? What's your mantra on that?
So we are extremely small in terms of penetration. So we have a penetration of 1%, right? So for us, we are still not really gone to all those players who can afford olive oil. Our journey is not much more affordability; it is much more usability. So it is much more making the consumers understand that there are many more occasions where they can use it because a lot of our consumers don't look at price as the aspect. For a lot of our users, it is what is the value that they get. If you look at how we would essentially segment the Indian market, you have 2% of the guys who are really rich, then another 7% who you consider middle class and people who can afford your product. We are not even at the 2% mark. So us going into the affordability space is something I see olive oil as a segment doing it maybe 5-7 years down the line. Right now, it is just about penetration. It is about getting each and every guy who can afford it to actually use it, and then go ahead and kind of build it more into his let's say usage of oils. We are always the second oil that is there in a household. Very few households have olive oil as the only oil that they have in their kitty. So that is the journey that we are building. That we are the only oil that you need. Even if you can afford it, not everyone uses it. So for us, the journey into let's say really fighting with the giants, really fighting with the affordable oils is somewhere 5-10 years down the line. But we are cognizant of it, and there are a lot of things that we are doing to make it affordable for the consumers.
But I'm very happy to see that you have a audacious goal and there's a huge scope which you want to capture upon. And of course, consumer changing habits, it takes its own time. Great. So let me ask you about how do you see the sales, the on-field sales, which is still the king of sales, to manage your team, or how do you keep up their morale, or how do you have kind of a strategy where you how do you treat your salespeople? There's attrition also. There's a challenge of educating them also. So how do you deal with these things? So what are your specific strategies?
So, attrition is something that has really hit a lot of people badly this year, and I think it is something that we will see being there for at least the next 12 months, because I see a lot of new players coming into the market, and these players are extremely well funded. So, in terms of access to capital, that's not going to be a challenge. I don't see it for especially consumer facing brands, D2C brands, and people who are in the distribution space for the next 12 odd months. So I think that will still continue to be an issue. But people are also realizing the power of brands and the power of organizations that have a culture which, kind of aids not just one time results, but aids result in a long term view. And the discussion right now with manpower has become very very clear that you know uh, we are not here to just talk about an ex CTC. We are here talking about your career. We are here talking about how we can add value to your career, and not just what your next CTC is just for the next year. That's not the discussion that we want to do with our partners. And especially in our organization, in the last couple of years, there has been movements where people are able to see that journey. They have seen a colleague really being entrusted with a lot of responsibility, even if he is not let's say has a lot of years of experience, but because he has been able to deliver. So people are seeing, okay, if I do my job well, then the organization has enough processes that it is able to understand that I'm doing well, and then has the mechanism to really, one, drive my learning and drive my career. So that is something that has really helped us.
That's quite a perfect strategy. And any experience would you like to share of any from your let's say distributor or a sales person, let's say 3 years before and today, how they are perceiving all the efforts being made by you, how they are perceiving it. So any story, any anecdote on that, any feedback being.
When we did not have automation, this reimbursement cycle used to be as long as 9 months, right? So the distributor, one, uh, was really really unhappy that his money is stuck with us for 9 months, and second, since it was not automated, he was always worried that is there a calculation error that is there, am I losing money because I calculated something wrong, right? Because at the end of the day everything was manual. So अगर आपने 10 की जगह 1 डाल दिया तो बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हो गया, right? So after we did the whole automation journey, it really took us about 6 months for him to understand the system and understand, okay, everything is getting calculated correctly in the system. And once that trust was built into the system, the 9 month reimbursement cycle has now come down to 30 days. And the distributors now when talk to other companies, they kind of say, okay, these guys were screwed up like you. They used to have 9 months of cycle. We used to be mad about them. Now I don't even look at it. I take a printout, I sign it, the money comes. I am sorted. Can you do what they did?
Okay. And in your GTM strategy, how has automation helped you in taking your product to the consumers? Is there any examples which you can give us in terms of the data intelligence? How did you, discover things and open up new avenues?
So for us, before automation, we had no ideas what kind of outlets we used to go to. So everything was the same, right? Now a medium through which we can understand that there are different stores, they have different requirements, and we as a brand should also engage with them differently. As and when we have been able to implement automation, we have been able to identify the distribution gaps. So, for example, we used to reach about 1500 towns when we were in the beginning of our journey, and we used to be really happy about it. 1500 towns used to be a huge reach, right? But when we put in the automation tools, we understood, oh, we only go to 600 every month. There are 900 which we do over a period of time, and we think they are our coverage, but they are not our coverage. So that is where automation actually differentiates what is actually happening and what you think is happening. And I think that is a very big plus. It is easy to understand because there is no ambiguity about it, and it is also actionable data. And people can look at it and go back and understand, okay, this is the gap. This is where I am missing out. This is what I am missing out about. Probably I don't have a good distributor in a town which is impacting my sales. So all of that information with automation becomes very easy to one, look at, and second, actually track.
Okay, coming to technology, I think you have been a big fan of technology. So, is there anything you have in mind for a vision in terms of a lot of technologies like AI, ML, or digital traceability, IoT, which will be the leading future trends in data intelligence? So, is there something you are already onto it or planning to use for your strategy for sales or for expansion?
I think a lot of players are struggling in that aspect to really make it work for them, because you are then fighting with the giants which are Amazon, Flipkart, in terms of also giving the consumer another D2C experience. But I see that that is something that you have to continuously engage and build on, and that is something we at Deoleo have also been building for the last now almost 12 odd months, where we are at a phase now where we think it will take off, and we believe that for us, that is a platform that can drive as much as 20% of our revenue. So that is how much we are serious about the whole D2C play, and that those are the kind of investments that are also going into D2C as a pilot for us, also as a channel which is going to help us engage with consumers, because we can talk a lot there, right? We can give a much more information to the consumer in that segment. So that is one where I think technology is doing a lot of things. And in terms of really impacting things, also on shelf, I think with a lot of AI coming in, with a lot of image recognition coming in, I think that is another space where we are going to do a lot of automation, and that is a space we have been engaging with, right? We have been doing a lot of pilots in that space to understand what works. Uh, because fundamentally, I think the model that we engage with retailers, in terms of say us treating retailers differently, saying that this is a bigger retailer, he is supposed to get an additional, let's say, visibility from me, or an additional payout from me, because he is going to give me a higher shelf, a share of shelf, and all of that. In theory, it is a brilliant thing, but it is extremely difficult to operationalize and track, right? We just otherwise we are just burning that investment. We're just saying, okay, I think it happens. But with technology, I think we will come to a point where we will say, you see, this is what is happening. And I also believe that the retailer also has to be an active, engaged partner in it. So if I am actually paying him to do something for me, he should be engaged. He should understand what is happening. He should also be a part of that journey, and he should also take care that this is not a one-way engagement; it's a two-way engagement. So then we will be able to differentiate partners who are actively engaging with us and partners who are a passive engagers, and we would be able to do much more with the active engagers, right? We will understand, okay, not just I believe in the model, the retailer also believes in this model and is engaged, and you can treat him much more differently than just segregating the outlets basis the type they are.
No, you are bang on this when you say the retailer participation has to be as much in this model. In fact, I really take pride in that the model what we have evolved together with the retailer's application and benefits directly transferred, or talking about this engagement at that retailer level. How has been your experience in that space, and how you seen the adoption of the people, retailer, and what kind of challenges must be have been there?
So I think anything that we bring new is always a challenge to implement, right? Because you are doing something different than what is the norm, and people are by definition not willing to do something different because it is additional work or additional whatever it is, or maybe we do not make them understand what is the benefit of the project, right? Here what we have done is we have essentially decided that we will only engage with people who are going to engage back with us. So the discussion has become much more simpler. So we have had people who come, especially when we have been using the retailer app, and tell us that it is cumbersome for the guy to use the retailer app, so we should do a non-retailer app based activity also. And our response to them always has been, if he is not engaging with you, why do you want to engage with him?
Okay.
Because then you will not get the desired result out of it.
True.
He will just, okay, ye aa raha hai, nahi aa raha hai, whatever, I am not bothered about it. Now, if you make him an active participant, one, he's engaged. Second, it also plugs a lot of inefficiencies and leakages in the system, wherein earlier the retailer was not really aware of what he was getting as a benefit. What is it that he, used to get? And a lot of it used to be leakages, which used to then really confuse the brands, because they were like, oh, I'm investing, but I'm not getting anything back.
Yes.
Because the investment used to never, flow through the retailer. The retailer used to never understand, okay, the investment is for this.
So you are absolutely. It has to be a win-win situation and equal participation, and that's the point. Even the industry where we see moving it is toward the whole ecosystem of distributors, retailers, your sales team, your management. Everybody has to be equally engaged and participative to drive the benefits holistically. For my knowledge, or for generally, how has been the growth rate at the Deoleo?
Yeah, so what we have been able to do is do a 25-30% top line for the last 3-4 years, where the category has been more or less flat. So that is kind of the journey that we have covered. So in terms of share gain, we gain about 5-7% share every year, and that is what has sustained us, because we really believe that once the consumer uses our product, and once we are able to kind of get into his household once, we don't see a lot of lapsers, we only see adopters. So we only see people, okay, once they engage with it, they really love the product.
Okay, great. And before I, bring this to a close, I do have a question. Just taking a clue from your career, what would you like to share from your experience with the people who want to rise up the ladder in the FMCG industry?
Yeah, so I think this is a wonderful space, because what I like about FMCG is this is probably the only, let's say, industry where especially people who join fresh out of a lot of these schools and fresh out of their graduation, they're given a lot of empowerment very soon. So in within 12 months of you joining an organization, you are driving a team that's probably 3 times your age, and probably know much more than what you do, but are engaged with you, right? They also understand that you add some value, and they very quickly decide whether they are going to treat you as a real leader, or they are just going to treat you as a boss and say, हाँ जो बोल रहे हैं. But the kind of empowerment that you get in this industry, and the the how early you get it, is very difficult to get in other industries. And hence I think anyone who joins the industry in the first typical 3 to 4 5 year period should just learn, because they will get a lot of opportunities. By design, the industry is like that you will do a lot of roles in your initial years, and you will engage with a lot of different people. You will get to learn a lot. So in your first 4 5 years, you should not really look at let's say designations. More, you should look at the experience that you are getting. So you should be able to move everywhere. So in the first year, I worked in the Northeast in Tripura. I worked in Punjab, I worked in Rajasthan, then I worked in Bombay in the first 4 years. So that kind of exposure in terms of geography, in terms of roles, in terms of empowerment you normally do not get in a lot of organizations. So I would suggest that in the first 4 or 5 years, that anyone who joins FMCG is very, very focused about, I am going to learn as much as I can. And once you have your background, then you can go ahead and, really then start thinking about strategies, then start thinking about, okay, how do I make a bigger impact?
No, I can totally relate with that because I do have an experience in FMCG, and people, the kind of exposure you get, I think you get a lot of life lessons out of, being in the industry, in the FMCG. The exposure, the chaos, the dynamism, the problems, the daily hustles, it's like going to a war every day.
But you get up looking for it, right? आज क्या करेंगे?
So that's excitement which gets built up. I think it's something kind of adrenaline rush you get. Okay, so fantastic, Sila. Thank you so much for all the insights and the wisdom, and you have talked about the industry trend. It was really a joy speaking to you. Okay, thank you so much, and I wish you and Deoleo all the very best.
All the feelings are mutual and reciprocated. So we will keep on doing all the experiments that we do, right?
Sure, sure, Sila. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You were listening to What the FMCG, a podcast series from FieldAssist. Subscribe to the podcast on www.fieldassist.com/podcast or find us on all the major podcast distribution platforms.